Steve Wateridge is the head of research at Tropical Research Services, which collects and analyses data on tropical commodities. Steve, thanks very much indeed for joining us. You know, it's difficult to tell whether this is a temporary blip in the supply of a commodity or something more embedded. We read about El Nino and diseases in the trees, climate change, of course, or is there something more permanent taking place here?
I think the problems on the supply side are definitely structural. They've been building up for a number of years. Tree stock is getting older. There are serious problems with disease, cocoa swollen shoot virus in particular. Galamsey, the illegal mining in Ghana, is also an issue. So it's a combination of factors. I think the biggest concern I have about the medium term is that although prices actually touched $8,000 today, the farmer in Ivory Coast and Ghana, they have their price set at the start of the season in October, and they're still receiving less than $2,000. So the current price signals are not being passed on to the people who can best respond and try to increase productivity.
Well, you mentioned the structural side of the business, and it sounds to me what you're describing is a problem with the middleman.
No, I don't think it is so much the middleman. You know, it really is down to the fact that the governments of Ghana and Ivory Coast have central marketing systems that sell in advance, so they can't pass on the benefits of higher prices immediately. But also, they're doing very little recently in terms of improving the lot of the farmer. The Ghanaian government has serious financial difficulties. It used to distribute fertilizer for free, spray against disease. It stopped doing that because it can't afford to. And in Ivory Coast, the government has failed to take the problem of swollen shoot seriously, and so it gets ever worse.
I mean, we know that Ghana and Ivory Coast are the major players in this market around the world, but there's quite a bit of chocolate comes out of Latin America. That seems to run more smoothly. Now, is that a model that we should be looking at and informing the industry about, or is that just the way things are going to go in the future, and Latin America may replace Africa in part as a major supplier?
Certainly, you know, the farmers in South America, you know, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, must be rubbing their hands and laughing all the way to the bank because they get a price that's similar to the world price, and they will continue to expand production. The problem is Ghana and Ivory Coast between them account for 3 million tons of cocoa, whereas in South America as a whole, you only get 700,000 or 800,000 tons. So it needs a big expansion in South America to make up for the potential shortfall in West Africa.
It seems such a shame that a commodity that is so highly valued around the world, particularly in the West, of course, we know that chocolate's right up there with the other luxuries, important to people's lives as gifts and presents and so on. It seems such a shame that an industry that is the engine of that production should be allowed to fall over itself and go stale and become dilapidated through organisational issues. Can the consumer play a part in correcting that, do you think?
Yeah, the consumer can play a part by paying more for their chocolate. It's pretty much as simple as that. But that then has to be passed on to the farmer.
Steve, thanks very much indeed. Steve Wateridge there, head of research at Tropical Research Services.